Yeah, hello everyone. Hello Albert.
Hello,
Nice,
Angelo.
nice to have you here on my channel. It's a great pleasure.
Thank you.
So, um, quick to introduce to the audience. I've discovered, let's say, your scientific philosophical paper on information, and I was fascinated by one specific sentence. Which was in the core of what was or is basically the main inference of my studies in regards of origins, which is that life is driven by information. And I think that that core sentence brought it straight to the point. So that was, and I think the whole paper which you wrote is a great philosophical paper in regards of science. So I decided to contact you, and that developed our encounter here.
Yeah.
So it's great to have you. And yeah, I would like maybe first start with the first question. How did you come to write that science paper? What is the history behind it?
Yeah. Well, it was for me. It was just some kind of philosophical tour. I was reflecting about life and what does really what's the difference between a phenomena like life and living organism compared to, for example, dead things like a rock and pond. And what is the thing that we could use to discriminate these two phenomena? And it was really a paper that I wrote on my spare time some 16 years ago, but I really still mean every word of it. I think it's a good paper still. The title was biological function and the genetic information are interdependent. And this kind of reflects the core of the paper, that you really need both systems. And yeah, I can try to elaborate a little bit about it because
Yes, that
there
would be
are
nice.
several persons that already had reflected about this problem. And the physicist von Neumann, he was one of these. And von Neumann, he was quite an interesting person because he had these quite huge visions. And one of his vision was to send uh, autonomous or robotic systems to Mars to populate Mars, and then do mining and send minerals back to Earth. But in order to fulfill that vision, he really needed robots that could self-replicate and sustain themselves up on Mars. But he came to the problem of replicating a robot because it's quite a task. For a robot to replicate it, it really needs insight into itself, and it runs into a problem that you need another robot to build yourself, and then again another robot for infinity. But he actually solved the problem, and the problem was solved to have some sort of blueprint information embedded in the robot with a full description of itself. So when the robot needed to replicate, it could just read the instruction and then build itself from the instruction. And then you could have, and then you could just pass on, take a copy of the blueprint and pass it on to the next generation. And then you have succeeded in replicating. And this kind of this is a constraint for everything that needs to replicate. You really need to have this blueprint, and it's also reflected in life. Life contains genetic information with a full description about itself, and the replication occur according to kind of von Neumann's self-replicating system. So yeah, that was just one of the things that I discovered, and but it's really a problem, because what came first, one might say, in a reductionistic view, but is it the genetic information or the kind of biological system that can read this information and actually build something from it? So I would say that both are needed, and that contradicts that life is kind of developed from very simple chemical compounds to more and more complex biomolecules, and then finally life.
So did von Neumann come to these concepts before DNA was actually unraveled and discovered by Watson and Crick? I think that was in the 40s that he was conceptualizing these things. Is that correct?
Yeah, so this was a very long time ago. I think before it was in the 50s. I guess he reflected upon this, and then he actually said that. And he recognized that these systems must also occur in life, and he said then that that these things could emerge by themselves. That would be a really miracle of the first order. Yeah. So then.
But he remained an atheist, right?
What?
He remained an atheist, right? I mean, he wasn't a believer, or was he?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
But I mean, there are several scientists that, well, they start out not believing in God, but then after studies and studies, they see no other answers. So there are many scientists that have been Christians, such as or believers, such as Max Planck, for example, and Newton.
Yeah, the only one that I know is Anthony Flew, which came at least to become a deist based on the issue of DNA and the information in DNA. But if you see like Fred Hoyle, for example, he has some great writings in regards of these issues, but he nonetheless remained an atheist.
Yeah. Yeah, it's for me it was I guess I started out as more like an agnostic, but then I have become a Christian in my after I was an adult. So but that's more I guess that the belief in the Christian God and more philosophical conviction that there is some kind of intelligent power that have created something is two different things, really.
Yeah, but isn't this a fascinating thing? I mean, when we are talking with unbelievers, they ask for evidence, and they say there is no evidence for God, right? And as I said before, in my understanding, that relationship, that information, which must come from a mind, and where we only know that minds can generate that kind of instructional assembly information, and then the device which it is constructed based on that information. That relationship can only come from intelligence, and never has it been shown different. And when you actually provide that information, that evidence to someone which doesn't believe, and maybe even understands the problem, like Hoyle, or they understood the problem, nonetheless they remain atheists, right? So isn't that, yeah?
I guess it's. I've heard someone say that they don't want the world to be like it, to contain a God. They don't want it. They don't like it.
Yeah. So it
So
boils
it's
down that the problem is not just evidence or reason or things like that, but it goes further than that, right?
yeah, and there are really so many things that points to information that not only in life but also in the as a basis of the universe. I mean, before people said that everything is chemistry or everything is matter and forces. But now they have discovered that you can actually send information from A to B without actually sending no energy and no particle, nothing at all. But so this is something that they use in counterfactual communication. So it's an artifact of the quantum mechanics. So and also new physicists, they argue that that the universe is really based on information. That information is the first thing, really. And
So just quick, you are referring to quantum entanglement, right?
yeah, in counterfactual communications, then they use quantum entanglement to put up an experiment to kind of send information from a person A to B, and so this there are some papers on that they have sent several pixels without there going any particles or waves or fluxes of energy between the two. So it means that the reality, the ultimate reality is something totally different than matter and energy, and it's something abstract, something that we can't really grip. And these new physicists have started to look into this, and you can read about it if you Google, for example, holographic universe and theories like that.
Yeah, I traditionally I've said that I am a dualist, but recently I was thinking about that, and I said, well, maybe I am a trialist in the sense that there is the physical, there is our human mind, but there is the mind of God, which is far beyond what we can comprehend or imagine, and it must also exist in a different dimension, and that is incomprehensible to us, and it englobes things that are really different than just our mind. That's why I think there is a third realm which we do not comprehend, but which must be completely beyond and above us.
But yeah, and regarding the human mind, I think it's also a good example of how information can build realities, because if we really think about it, the things we experience, things we see right now, is not the world out there, but it's signals going into our brains and fluctuate around inside our head, and then this world that we see is kind of reconstructed, but it's a virtual reality really inside our heads. But
Yes.
it's really a good one. And when you study quantum mechanics, you can, when you go into tiny bits, you can see that in the end you will the universe is kind of discrete. It dissolves on to the Planck constant, so then you can't. So that's why it has a definite solution, if you might say. It's like looking at a picture and you focus more and more, and you end up with square pixels, and you can't really get anything out of it. So
that is a very interesting keyword that you said, which is the Planck constant. And if you don't have the right constant, then maybe our macro world would be as fuzzy as the quantum world, and we wouldn't be able to perceive it the way we do.
yeah.
And I think this is also something which is fascinating and demonstrates fine tuning, that constant is just right to make that distinction between the quantum world and the macro world, which makes it possible for us to see to have this stability and being able to exist here, right?
Yeah, I totally agree, and it so it's very natural to think that reality as it is has a purpose, and it's actually to create the possibility to observe and sense things around us. So I agree, and yeah. It's
So what I would like to know is, as a scientist, you have thought about all these things. Have you actually unraveled all these affairs after you became a Christian or before?
I think I've always looked into this kind of scientific philosophical problems, but at the point I became a Christian. But for example, before I became a Christian, I was looking into the laws of physics, and why we have this when you push into physics, you can reach to a certain point, but at a certain point you have to accept something as it is, and you call it axiom.
Yes,
And,
this is fascinating.
and so
the SI system, which grounds everything, but it is not grounded by anything deeper.
Yeah, and so for example, you like to ask the answer, why this kind of laws, and because there is no question to that. And of course, scientists, or I don't call that science either, but they create this ad hoc hypothesis that maybe we have a multiverse, that every universe actually exists. So we are just in one of these universes, and by chance it produced a universe with observers that can reflect upon these things. But I mean, it's a even crazier idea than believing in God. I think that created this universe with a purpose and goal.
Yeah, I mean the multiverse is so crazy. I posted that if a multiverse exists, then there must be one universe where Donald Trump won against Alexander the Great.
Yeah.
I mean, it becomes completely absurd to state such things. But once you want to deny God, then you make up whatever you want.
Yeah, it's true. So this I reflected upon these things really before I became a believer myself. But yeah, I guess that becoming a believer sparked the interest a bit.
Yeah, so tell me a little bit more, Albert, about your conversion. I mean, we had a private conversation prior to this public one, and I thought it was very fascinating how you became a Christian. Can you maybe elaborate and tell us again about what
Yes,
happened?
yes, I can do that. It's um, I was at that time I was more like agnostic regarding I thought there would be some kind of God in my mind. I really thought that, but it was kind of a philosophical God. It was just something that created things, but for which purpose I did not know. I could not know him. And in Norway, we have this is Christianity that kind of is the main belief system here. But so I was in the church for Christmas Eve, but I did not understand. For example, the Son of God, what was meant. I thought that Jesus Christ, he was a good person, and maybe he was just a little misunderstood by his disciples or something like that. I have had no understanding, but then I was met a girl, and she is now my wife, and but she brought me into to church occasionally, and I thought that maybe I should read a little bit in the Bible just to see what it's all about. And my first reaction was that, yeah, this is really not for me. It's a brutal history about some poor people, thousand of years back in time, and also I thought that, yeah, it was kind of hard words, and I didn't think it suited me. But I was home at my little apartment that I had at that time, and suddenly I had this intense feeling of being loved. I could not really understand it, but it was a very great feeling. And I by myself, I uttered some words. It didn't have meaning to me before I said it, but I said that the words "Jesus is Lord." I uttered those words, and then suddenly many things happened, but everything kind of opened up for me. I had this very real feeling about coming home to my father in heaven. He was like a real father with, and I had this feeling. It was like I have been away from home, and then I came back home in a way. So, and then suddenly I could understand what the gospel was about, and I saw Jesus Christ on this cross, and the sky was darkly blue, and I felt that we were all there, you and me, and we were all standing around this cross in a way. So
So
there were
was that a vision which you had?
yeah, that was it was yeah, it was kind of a vision, and also yeah, and then I could just when I looked upon my city, I just before there was just a city which I like to stay in, but suddenly I looked upon it with sorrow, and and there were so much things that I didn't approve. So yeah, it was a very strange experience, and yeah, the day after, of course, I was was not so special, and but I really kept this experience in my heart.
So that was basically a game changer, let's say.
Yeah, it was because then I could open the Bible, and it was a living book for me. Every sentence spoke to me. So
Yeah, this is interesting that sometimes we read the Bible and we have that feeling that these words are precisely talking to us in a specific situation, and it's maybe difficult to describe, but I understand perfectly what you're saying. So that is very interesting. But I agree that when we are thinking about these things, evidence of information which drives life and chemistry and so forth, we come maximally to a deist God, which we can infer there must be some kind of intelligence behind the physical universe which drives it, which instantiates the laws of physics and as well the information stored in genes and epigenetic information, but we cannot identify the identity of that intelligent designer. So more than just evidence is necessary to become a Christian. And I think you have given a great example. It must be also something where God sees that we are seeking and then promotes conversion.
yeah, I guess that he. I mean, the word of God, the Bible says that his eyes are everywhere, looking for someone that he can help or needs his help. So I guess
Yes.
for me, I guess that there is not a person on this planet that are too far away from his grace, really.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it is a mystery. I mean, there is this entire centuries old dispute between Calvinists and Arminianists, and nobody knows exactly where to draw a line. Where comes my will in? Where comes the God's action in? If we are elected and things like that, and it is of course a never-ending story. But I think it is very clear that to become a believer, it's more than just reason. There has to be will involved, our heart, to seek out God. And if we seek Him, then God will see it, and that He can promote that we will find Him.
Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe back to the thing that we were talking about, information and your science paper. How did you find out about this interdependence? And I think that there are two core concepts in that relation between information and chemistry, which is driven by information. One is that you need instructional assembly information, which only comes from a mind, and it instructs the making of several parts which only have a function when they are assembled into interdependent higher order, which then gives a higher function of that system. And there you have two main concepts. One is instructional assembly information or specified complex information, and the other is irreducible complexity. And they are both also interdependent. And I call that basically the Paley's 2.0.
Yeah. Yeah, I in my paper I wrote about a thinker called Polanyi, and he had these similar thoughts about, for example, a machine like a watch that, I mean, the very function is, of course, dependent upon the whole thing with every parts, and yeah, it works according to physics and the laws of nature and chemistry and things like that, but it cannot be explained by laws of nature or physics or chemistry. It's something more. It's a layer of information that kind of gives boundary conditions to matter and forces to kind of force them to fulfill a function and a goal, and these very concepts that we talk about, function, information, goal, purpose, they are not really something that is embedded in the universe or laws of nature or physics and chemistry. They are something coming from a mind, and
Absolutely.
requires
Yes.
mm.
Yes. Something which I thought fascinating in your paper, and which I was thinking about, Albert, is the sequence in the self-replication of a von Neumann machine. And I think you wrote that it has to be a logic sequence where first the machine parts, they are replicated, and then in the end the information itself, which then is duplicated and transmitted to the daughter or the duplicated factory. Can you maybe elaborate a little bit more about that necessity of that logical sequence? And isn't that as well, if that logic sequence is necessary, very strong evidence that there has to be a mind which instantiates that logic sequence?
Yes. Yeah. I was kind of focusing more that on that these two things must occur together, and they must. I mean, for a science systems to work, you really need you need a system that can get some interpret the meaning in it, and it's quite complex mechanism to interpret the meaning of something. And but then again, this information has to be to be described in this string, linear string. So I guess it's just that you need something. In order to read something, you need this linear information, the blueprint, and so that you can have this mechanism to read this algorithm, and yeah, in order to build the new thing. I mean, it's very logic that it has to be this in this order, and yeah.
Yeah,
I
what you
think,
mean is that you need also the information transmission machinery right from the beginning there,
yeah,
able to start the process. That means since this is an interdependent system, it has to be at the starting point fully set up and fully working, fully functional. It cannot be a gradative or evolutionary process which instantiates it at the first time. But once it is instantiated, then there has also to be the information stored in the hard disk, which dictates the sequence of the replication.
yeah, it's true. And yeah, so I have been in touch with people that study science systems, and it's something called the biosemiotics, and so how do these science systems? What is the real essence of these science systems? And one of them, Klaus Emmeke, a Danish biosemiotic, he biosemioticist, he said that even for a science system to exist, you need something that a whole lot of agents together that kind of point back on themselves in a way. So I guess it's just the same logic as for Neumann, and also that we can find in a living cell, that you need the cell machinery, and you need the science and the possibility to really read meaningful instructions out of the genes, and you need the information already set up in the genes to do that. So yeah, so that's why I conclude in my paper that if we were truly objective, we could just take life as an axiom. It's something that is there, but it's almost meaningless to see that, to reflect upon the original life, that it emerged from small molecules to something more and more advanced.
Absolutely. I think you mentioned also something which I'll quote here. Semiotic functional information is not a tangible entity, and as such, it is beyond the reach of and cannot be created by any undirected physical process. This is not an argument about probability. Conceptual semiotic information is simply beyond the sphere of influence of any undirected physical process. To suggest that the physical process can create semiotic code is like suggesting that the rainbow can write poetry. It is never going to happen. Physics and chemistry alone do not possess the tools to create a concept. The only cause capable of creating conceptual semiotic information is a conscious, intelligent mind.
Yeah.
And it is fascinating. I had a recent exchange with Barbieri, and he thinks that we need to exclude intelligence as the cause of semiotic information in biology. But when you come to see what the explanations are that he gives, they are just nonsensical.
And what are those?
I mean, he says that it is physical necessity, and others say it is a multiverse, like Kunin, for example. He acknowledges the problem to have a minimal genomic information to have a first living cell, And since it is so unlikely, he just says, well, maybe a multiverse is the explanation.
Yeah. Well. But yeah, I have also reflected a little bit upon probability, because yeah, people think that at some point it happened by chance, but sometimes I guess that chance is used in a wrong way. It's just used like um, yeah, for example, um, when we are talking about chance, we always have a context to build upon, and so this chance can be 50%, and but then we refer to a lot of things that have happened before, and here it's just one are saying that there is something that have self-assembled in a short period of time, relatively speaking, and it's so complex and massive that it's really a problem to even talk about chance. I guess I think it's almost irrelevant. it's not working explanation.
I mean, chance, of course, isn't the causal mechanism. It is just a quantification of the likelihood for a specific event to happen.
Yeah.
But I agree with you that even let's suppose that we start with the elements or molecules on a prebiotic Earth. First, you need to have that situation where these elements can start to interact together. And for that, you need atoms. In order to have atoms, you need the right fundamental forces. They need to be fine-tuned. Otherwise, you don't have stable atoms and stable matter. And it goes all the way down. And then you come eventually down to virtual particles. Well, what is the chance that they started to interact in a way that then one unified force is split into four fundamental forces? I mean, it is one supposed lucky chance event after the other until you come even to have the shuffling on a prebiotic Earth.
Yeah. Yeah, and I guess a multiverse doesn't solve the problem either. So
Yeah, no, I mean, a multiverse just puts your problem further back. It doesn't solve it because even a multiverse requires a cause.
yeah, and the same is true by panspermia, the idea that life came from space, another planet.
So you have to ask, where did that come from?
Yeah.
And if you say it was seeded by aliens, what made these aliens?
Yeah.
So you just go further back, but in the reality, you never solve really the problem.
No, that's true. But there have been some scientists trying to calculate the probability, but I guess it's just insane numbers that they end up with.
Yeah, I've made the calculation, and if we take as a basis the smallest free living bacteria, which is Pelagibacter rubic, it has 1.3 million nucleotides, and you can calculate what the odds are that you have the right sequence, and it is 1 to 10 to the 722 thousandths of power. That is completely off anything that would be reasonable, and you can even to have a sequence of 100 amino acids, it's 1 to 10 to the 130th power. That is still, or that is already exhausting the possibilities in our universe. So it is completely impossible, and I mean, that alone, for anyone who thinks this true, that evidence alone should be enough to conclude that non-guided mechanisms are inadequate. But what I most often hear, well, this is an argument from ignorance, but just because we don't know yet, it doesn't mean it was God.
One of I guess that one of the best arguments that I have found in the literature is actually an argument from Leibniz 400 years ago, and he was I guess he was both a politician and a philosopher and a
Yes, he
scientist
was
and
both.
everything.
Yeah.
And he was also the first that came up with a binary system as a fundament for describing information.
With the monads.
But he said that he had this. He said that God has chosen the universe that is simplest. Is the simplest on in theory and most complex in phenomena, and by that he thought like this: if you have, for example, two programmers, two engineers that are going to create a program, you can create that will perform a certain task. You can do that by creating a quite large program that is large in code. And then you can do it by programming a very small, neat code that does the same. And which one is the smartest? Yes, it's the small code. That's the smartest code, the most elegant code. And I guess that in the case of the universe, it's very rich in phenomena. But when you try to write down all the physical all the laws of nature, you can probably do it in four A4 pages, and it will cover most of it. So this tells that the universe is really a smart thing. It has something smart with it, and that's also why science in itself works, because when a scientist is studying something, he when he really finds a new law, he programs it into a small mathematical formula, and if everything was kind of if every phenomena that happened could not be related to laws, and that would be something random and chaotic, and something that you couldn't then you couldn't use the tool science to understand it.
You know, I had some people which criticized and said, well, a sign of intelligence or evidence of intelligence is not complexity but simplicity. And my usual answer has been, well, simplicity that doesn't work is meaningless. What you need is the most parsimonious solution. And what you described is exactly what is so fascinating, that you have basically four fundamental forces. You have 6 or 7 fundamental physical laws. You have 4 basic building blocks of life, and you have a very elegant genetic code which maps 64 codons to 20 amino acids. And just this, which is all simple, gives rise to all the complex phenomena that we observe in the universe. So we have simplicity at the bottom of everything, and then complexity which rises up based on that simplicity. And I think this is just genius.
Yeah.
And I think the question, of course, is why is there this situation and state of affairs rather than not?
Yeah. Yeah. I guess we agree on a lot of issues.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think we are almost, or 50 minutes, almost an hour, and it has been, I think, a very good and enlightening conversation, and I am fascinated by your story, Albert, and again, I appreciate very much for having come to my channel, for having this conversation, and maybe I give you the last words.
Yeah. If you are listening to this program, I hope that be honest to yourself and look into these problems with open eyes and read for yourself, because I believe that this evidence is out there, and it's visible for everyone. And also, if you want to have a personal relationship with God, I have found mine relationship in Jesus Christ, and I guess you can too. And it's easy to get to know Him by reading the Bible and praying, and look up Christian friends.
Amen. Amen. Yes, I fully agree with you. And I think that both evidence in the natural world and reading the Bible, they converge to the same language and to the same conclusion. And this is that the God of the Bible exists and best explains our existence. Okay, thank you very much, Albert. Thanks for the audience, for everyone which has listened to our stream, and see you next time. Bye bye, everyone.